Siddhartha saves the swan. Long ago, near the great Himalayas, there lived a king called Suddhodana and his queen Maya. They were just and kind rulers. Their son was called Siddhartha. Young Siddhartha grew up in luxury. One day, when the prince was 7 years old, his father sent for him.
Siddhartha,
He said,
when you grow up, you will be the king and rule our kingdom. It is now time for you to begin your training.
Siddhartha was taught how to ride a horse, how to shoot an arrow, how to wrestle, and use a sword. Siddhartha learned his lessons well. Every day after his lessons, Prince Siddhartha would play in the palace grounds. He liked to sit and watch the wild swans that sometimes visited the palace lake. One evening, Siddhartha saw some beautiful wild swans flying overhead. Suddenly, as he watched, one of the swans fell to the ground.
Oh no!
Cried Siddhartha. He ran to where the swan lay and picked it up gently. An arrow was sticking out of its wing.
Someone has shot you.
Siddhartha said softly. Very gently, he removed the arrow. He took off his shawl and wrapped it around the wound.
I'll look after you until your wing is better,
he said. Just then, he heard a voice.
Where is it? I know it must be here somewhere. I saw it fall.
It was Devdatta, Siddhartha's cousin, carrying his bow and arrow.
Siddhartha, that's my swan. I shot it. Give it to me,
he said.
You can't have it,
replied Siddhartha.
It is a wild swan. It does not belong to you.
The boys began to argue.
Let us ask our elders to settle our dispute,
said Siddhartha. The king and the ministers listened quietly as the two boys told them what had happened. They were puzzled. Who did the swan belong to? Then one of the ministers spoke up. He pointed to the wounded animal in Prince Siddhartha's arms.
If the swan could talk,
the minister said,
it would tell us that it wanted to be well again and be free to fly and swim with the other swans. None of us wants to feel pain or die, and it is the same for the swan. It wants to live, so it should go to whoever wants to give it life. Let it be so,
said the king.
Siddhartha shall keep the swan.
All this time, Devadatta had stood silently. He remembered how his mother had looked after him when he had fallen and badly injured his leg. He had never before thought that animals too had feelings, that they felt pain and appreciated kindness. Devadatta felt very sorry for what he had done. Siddhartha and Devadatta decided to take care of the swan until it was well again. One evening, when the swan's wing was completely healed, they led it down to the palace lake. Just then, they heard the familiar sound of beating wings overhead.
Look,
said Siddhartha.
The other swans have come back for her.
They set the swan free. Soon, the swan rose up in the air to join her friends. She circled the lake, as if to say thank you and goodbye before flying off towards the mountains.